Hey guys, welcome back to my second weekly Ramble video. It's the only video so far this week, because my project for this week is a little bigger than usual. I just got distracted from my much simpler EDC project I had planned, and decided to design a drill press instead. It's based off of watch/jewelers making designs for drill presses, so it's all pulleys and powered by this motor over here. I broke one of the pulleys, so I need to reprint some parts, but that should be coming out in the next couple of days. But I thought, with that being this week's project video, I thought what better time than to discuss not my jeweler's drill press, but my jeweler's lathes. So I have two. That shot is terrible, one sec. There we go, everyone's in frame now. I have two here. This one here is a CLH Model 7 lathe, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know that much about it. It's designed to be clamped in a vise, so this stand that I got it in is not like proprietary, someone has made this for a display piece. But this piece here unscrews, and then you'd clamp this in a vise, and this would be used for really small work. I got this on eBay about 2 years ago, for no reason other than that it was only $40, and I thought that looks like a cool thing to own. It used to be in much worse condition. It's still not in great condition. I need to clean it up a bit more, polish it up a bit more, and I need to fabricate an extra knob for the end here. But overall, it's just cute. I don't know what else to say. It's probably in too poor shape to be used for watchmaking, but maybe I'll rig it up for some hand turning of beads or something in the future. But that one's not as interesting as this guy up here. So this one here is my Taylor, or Lanco as it became, model 255 8mm watchmaking lathe. They're both 8mm, which means they use 8mm collets, like this one here. I'll show these in a second. This expands out, but I don't have it on a stand, so it should be more like that. Again, belt driven, which is, I'm hoping to have a whole setup with this drill press and this lathe on one belt system eventually, or interchangeable perhaps, I'm not sure. Again, 8mm collets, or in this case, it's got this kind of absurd chuck. So if I unscrew that, the drawbar comes out, and the chuck can be released. I've got this like absurd, cheap chuck setup. It's really janky. Temporary. That's in what's called a screw collet. So this would be for like square stock. This collet on the end here. You would turn these an equal number of times to hold a square piece in this collet. The lathe itself, again, uses 8mm collets, and is of the Geneva bed style, or it's a Geneva style lathe. So that means that the bed here is a D shape, and the pieces of the lathe, the headstock, the tailstock, the cross slide, if I had one, which I'm still looking for, or maybe I'll 3D print one, we'll see. Again, I don't plan to use this for watchmaking, I'm nowhere that skilled, but they're here and there, especially in this guy, there's been times where I need really small turned components, so I'm hoping to potentially set this up to be able to do those. Again, I purchased this about 2 years ago. Similar to how I was talking about the knives in the last video, there was this weird period on eBay where a ton of watchmaking lathes were coming up within about 2 months. At first it was this one, right? Then, about a week after I purchased that one, another one came up, and it was one of these, but in a 6mm variety. So the collets were 6mm instead of, like that thread was 6mm instead of 8. It was a tiny little thing. It's actually, imagine this, but smaller than this. Anyways, I digress. And so, first I got this little bronze one, and then, with no collets, by the way, I got this bronze one. And a week later, this 6mm one, including a set of collets, but with no tailstock, came up. And I purchased that for about $100, and I ended up selling that one off later, after having cleaned it up a bit. because I got this one as well. And so typically, a week after that one arrived, this one came up on eBay, which not only included a variety of collets, and a stand amongst other things, but it also included the tailstock, which is, somewhat important. So, one after the other, I just kind of got, each one had an upgrade. I sold off the 6mm one because I didn't need it, and I used the money to purchase this one. And then typically, a week, or it was more like a month later after this one, another listing came up that I really regret not buying, because not only did it include a cross slide and a turret tailstock, it also just included a bunch of other stuff in it. The listing only went for about, I think it was $350, which is a very, very good price. It was pretty rusty and in bad condition, but that would have been a really fun restoration, and I'm disappointed I didn't get that. I haven't touched this too much, because it's got this lovely nickel plating, and I'm just not sure how to touch it up properly, and I don't want to risk peeling it off and making myself a bigger problem. So for the time being, I've just been keeping it clean and dry and not really doing too much of it. But in the future, I'm going to look into it some more, invest in the proper whatever it is that I need to clean this thing up properly, and also set it up to be running again. As I said, I might just end up 3D printing myself a cross slide, so that'll be a future video in this, I guess, micro machine shop series that I'm planning to be working on. So obviously, I guess there's kind of, there's kind of 4 tools that I could see being useful. Let's start with 3. So drill press. If this works and I can get it good enough, I might experiment with milling with it. It's really rigid. But anyway, I'll talk about that more in that video when that comes out in the next couple of days. And then obviously a lathe, so you got lathe, milling machine, drilling machine, and then just as a challenge to myself, I might design a scraper. That could be interesting. But so here are some examples of 2 different types of collets that you'll commonly find used with these watchmaking and jewelers lathes. So these are step chucks. Step collets are what they're called, and they're a series of like stepped circles for holding different size of larger stock. These other collets, which are just standard 8mm collets, each hold one very, very, very specific size of stock or part each. This one is actually a Lorch one, not a Taylor one. The other ones are, for the most part, just unbranded. There's also, as I said before, this guy here, which if I were to unscrew it, would just be this part here, and that's for square stock, as I mentioned. Anyways, for a bit of history on this lathe, so Taylor, which then became, Bill Taylor was the engineer who designed these lathes, and these were produced shortly after, or I believe during and then after World War II, and funny enough, people weren't too keen to buy from Germany for some reason, and so this became the only watchmaking lathe produced in Australia. An initial batch of 50 was ordered by the Watchmaking Guild in Sydney, and then once those were purchased and found to be of excellent quality, a further batch of 50 was produced, and then from there I'm not sure how many more were made. These lathes are pretty much a direct copy of lathes made by other companies like Bowley and Lorch. Just very similar Geneva bed-style lathes, but made in Australia is the big difference there. Apart from that, not much more to say. Again, just it's a ramble. That's what the title is. Stay tuned for this guy. Stay tuned for that guy. Stay tuned for this guy. That should be coming out later this week. And I'm very excited. I'm very happy with how this turned out. I think it's a really cool print that hopefully should be pretty functional as well. So, anyways, if anyone watched this far, thank you guys so much for watching. It is 3 AM, so I'm going to sign out. and see you guys next week.